Hey there, coders. This is project number 4, how to get your rocket to arrive at the planet Mars. So we hope you have fun with this one. This one is a little bit more interactive, and I know you'll see what I mean with this. Okay, the first thing we want is to get rid of this cat. Goodbye, Scratch Cat. Let's change the backdrop. We want stars again. It's the same one we did last time. And let's create a sprite here. We're going to just draw this one. There's not a good one for the planet Mars. So just grab, on the sprite, I hit this one here that says paint, and just draw a little circle here, and then fill it full of red, and maybe change it to a nice Mars color of red if you want. And we could do a black outline, that's fine. Okay, there we have a planet. I think I made that a little bit bigger than I wanted to. Shrink it down. But then make sure, oops, not that. And then make sure that you have it centered on here as best that you can, on the center of the drawing surface there. So there's our planet. It's not quite as round as it could be. That looks good. Okay, so come back to code. We have a planet here. That's going to be Mars. What we want Mars to do when the green flag is clicked is randomly appear somewhere on the screen. Now we're going to be showing some information down here at the bottom of the screen, so we don't want Mars to come any lower than, say, about minus 100 in the Y value. So just like last time, we want a green flag clicked event to happen, and then motion, we're going to change the Mars position to a random location somewhere on the stage. So bring over, go to XY. You could just go to random position, but you'll see why later on why you don't want to do that one. So come to XY, and then come to operators. Bring 2 of these over here, because we're going to random the X value and we're going to random the Y value. Go ahead and attach those to that block. And for the sake of this project, we want to go anywhere from negative 240 to 240 on the X value, and then for Y, we want it to be anywhere from negative 100 to 180. So click the green flag a few times, test out your code, and the planet will jump around on the screen. I thought this would be a good program because maybe you do some calculations for your rocket to go to Mars, but maybe Mars isn't, you might have to make some adjustments along the way. So the purpose of this project is have your rocket make some adjustments to arrive on the planet. Forgot to give it a name, so let's give this a name, arrive at Mars. Okay, and the sprite for Mars, that's really all that one needs to do. So let's add our rocket. Choose a sprite, type in rocket, grab this one. Let's come to our costumes. I don't really think it's necessary to animate the costumes for this project, so we're just going to pick that or leave that as costume number 1. And let's set the size. We want the size on this one to be a little bit smaller. So come down here and set that to size 20. Okay, and that's pretty good. Okay, what we want to do is, for this program, we want the rocket to always appear in the center of the screen, and then the player has to get the rocket to the planet Mars. So when the green flag is clicked, come over to here to events. When the green flag is clicked, let's go to motion, and we want it to begin in the middle of the screen. So that's where X is 0 and Y is 0. Okay, so if we hit the green flag, if we move the rocket, it'll appear back in the middle of the screen every time. That's what we want to happen. Now, we're going to be changing the direction of the rocket. So for this one, anytime we restart the program, we want to start the pointer back at 0 as well. So let's point this at direction 0 and hit the green flag. Okay. Let's leave that the way it is for now. We may make a change later on in a second, but you'll see what I mean. Come to control. What we want to happen is, as long as the program is running, this rocket is going to repeat in a loop unless something else happens. So we're going to do a forever loop. So came to control, grab over forever, and we're going to get some information from the player. So come to sensing, and we're going to ask, how do we want the rocket to turn? So we're going to say turn what degrees? So there's 360 degrees in a circle. When we have the rocket sprite turning, the player is going to pick a number. And what's going to happen is the player is going to pick a number for the rocket to turn and then to move towards the planet. Okay, so here we ask the question, and then come up to motion, and we're going to turn, and we want it to turn based on what the player types in. So is that going to be 15 degrees? Well, maybe if I hit the green flag and I type in if I type in 100, it's going to go 15 degrees. If I type in negative 100, it's going to go 15 degrees. If I type in 500, it's going to go 15 degrees. Well, how do we make it so that the amount the rocket turns matches what the player types in? Well, the nice thing is under sensing, where you can ask this question, underneath it is this little bubble called answer. So answer keeps track, Scratch keeps track of the last thing you typed in. So right now it says 500. If I run it again and I say 0, and I click on this again, it'll say 0. Because whatever was the last thing that was submitted after the players asked a question, it's stored in this. This is called a variable because it changes it changes all the time. All we're going to do is drag that over in here to our turn statement. So the player's going to be asked a question, then the rocket's going to turn based on their answer. So if I say turn 90, blink, it points straight up and down. And if I say 45, it turns half of 90. So this isn't a forever loop, so let's test this out a little bit. Let's say if I say 45 over and over and over. Okay, let's say if I say 90 over and over and over. Let's say if I say 100, 180, 360, 1,000. Okay, it calculates that for you and turns that sprite into whatever the player typed in. Okay, now what we want to do is ask another question. So come over here and hit ask, and let's duplicate that question. And let's turn that off. So it's going to ask what degrees, and then let's ask how far, and then the player will change that answer number. Okay, so we're going to ask how far, and we'll have a new value for answer, but we don't want to turn this time. Come over here, come up to motion, and let's do move instead. Now we don't want to just move 10, because what if the player types in the number 200? We're going to go answer for the movement there. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to say turn 45, move 200. Wait a second. Try that again. Turn 90, move 200. That is kind of weird. Remember how I said we'd be making a change later on? Let's test that out for a second. Instead of just moving answer steps, let's make this a little more easy to tell what's going on here. Come to control and do repeat, and under the ask how far block, change that to say repeat answer and say move one step. So if you type in 200, it'll move one step 200 times. Okay, let's say 0 and 100. That makes it a little bit easier to see how it's moving. I'm going to start it over at the beginning. Let's turn 180 and move 100. Now you'll notice that the rocket is not moving the way it's pointed. That is an interesting challenge that we need to solve right away. So come over here to costumes. Here's our costume right now. The problem is the sprite thinks that the front of the sprite, Scratch thinks that the front of the sprite is over here. So we actually need to make that true. So what I did there is I highlighted the whole sprite, and I'm going to drag this until it looks like it's pointing straight to the right side of the screen here. Okay, now let's run it again. Turn what degrees? Let's say 0 again, so it's not going to turn at all. And then move how far? 100. Do you see how that works? All we had to do was make sure that the costume matched the way that the sprite was pointing. There's different ways to solve that problem. I think that's the easiest one. It doesn't actually look 100% centered, so I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Let's try that again. 45, 100. I think that looks all right. Okay, our program is actually almost done. All we need to do now is, let's see, let's keep playing a little bit. So I could say turn 200, then move 40, turn 90, move 100. The point is to get the rocket closer and closer to the planet. So how am I going to get it from this point here to point to the, I actually want to turn it to the left. So I'm going to type in a negative 45 here, move 100. Getting closer, negative 90, and then 50. Okay, we landed on the planet, but did you see how nothing happened in our program? Well, that's because we didn't tell anything to happen. So let's put a check in there to see if the rocket is touching this planet. Come back to our code here, and let's stop the program, and let's drag this if-then block over. So connect that under here. After it asks how far you want to move, and then it moves that far, we want to see if it's touching the planet. So let's do if, come to sensing, touching, and then we didn't name that the sprite. We could have renamed this to be Mars, but that's the one we want to do. Actually, let's rename that now. So click on sprite, give it a name here called Mars. Come back to the rocket ship, and do you see how that updated our code here? So what do we want to happen when the rocket touches Mars? Well, let's come to looks and say a message here that says say success. And let's try this. Okay, that is going to be about 100 degrees, about 200 steps. See if I guessed that right. Oh. Okay, do you see what happened there? Let's do 180 and then 90. So right now our program only checks to see if it's touching Mars. After it's done moving, it said the word success there, and then it immediately looped over again and said, ask what degrees and wait. So let's change our code here to make it a little bit better. Once you hit the planet Mars, the program can end. So let's come under control and grab this one here that says stop all. So now when it lands on Mars, let's do say negative 10, go 100. When it lands on Mars, the program ends. Okay. Now, do you notice though, you didn't even see the word success on there. So let's add in here a little bit of a delay. Actually, come to looks and say, instead of say success, grab this one over here that says say for 2 seconds. Get rid of that one, and let's change the word there, success. So our code says if it's touching Mars, say success for 2 seconds, and then stop all. And that way, did I type in 100? What did I type in? I think I typed in a really big number, and it's just going to keep going and going and going and going. That's probably not the best idea. Let's start that over. Let's find an easy one. Okay, let's turn this around 180, and let's just move 5. Success, 2 seconds, then the program ends, just like hitting the stop sign. There's one more thing I want to try, though. Let's get this set up in a good spot. See if I can show you an easy one. Okay, let's change that by 40, and watch if I move 200. It's going to go straight through the planet, and even though I hit the planet, the program doesn't think I did, because it only checks to see if it's touching Mars after it's done moving. Okay, so if we move this block here inside the repeat loop, now as soon as the sprite touches the other one, let's type in a huge number, 500. Oh man, I think I'm gonna miss. Let's start over, because I'm not trying to show you that. Okay, no, let's not do that one. Let's do a nice close one for the sake, because I'm running out of time in my video. Okay, so let's turn 210 degrees, and I'm going to say a ridiculous number, go 500, but as soon as it touches Mars, it's going to say success. And that's our program for today. We hope you thought that was fun, and next up, we get to land on the surface. So make sure you come back and do the next one too.